evil man who had owned the necklace and now lay mouldering in his grave. Tori shivered, shoving away the unwanted thought. We know Rafe has a good heart. We can only hope the necklace will work. Claire looked up from studying the leaves in the bottom of her teacup. Maybe the Duke will fall in love with Mary Rose. That would be the perfect solution. Tori cast Grace a look and tried not to grin when Grace rolled her eyes. That is a very good notion, Claire. Perhaps he will. But when she thought of the searing glance Rafe had tossed at Danielle Duval, she couldn't make herself believe it. Please, Aunt Flora, I simply cannot do it. How can you even think of asking me to go through that again? They were standing in Danielle's bedchamber, in their elegant suite at the Chesterfield Hotel, a lovely room done in shades of gold and dark green. Aunt Flora had let the rooms for the next 2 weeks, until their ship set sail for America. Come now, dearest, this is an entirely different sort of affair. To begin with, this is an afternoon tea, not a ball, and a number of children will be there. You know how you love children, and you are always so good with them. Dani toyed with the sash on her blue quilted wrapper. It was not yet noon. The benefit tea would begin in a little over an hour. The affair may be different, but I will be shunned, just as I was before. You saw how people treated me. Yes, I did, and I was proud of the way you conducted yourself. You made it clear you had every right to be there. I thought you handled the situation beautifully. I was miserable every single moment. Aunt Flora sighed dramatically. Yes, well, I am truly sorry about the Duke. She looked up at Dani from beneath a set of finely plucked silver-grey eyebrows. At least the man didn't cause you any trouble. Dani didn't mention the angry look he had tossed her, or the furious expression he couldn't quite hide. He would have been sorry if he had said even one word. Well, he won't be there this time, I promise you. She glanced down at her aunt, who was a good 8 inches shorter and quite a few stone heavier. How can you be so certain? It was merely a fluke the last time. An afternoon tea is hardly the sort of affair that would interest a duke. Besides, I wouldn't ask you to go if I were feeling up to snuff. Lately I've been a bit under the weather. She coughed lightly for effect, hoping to make Dani feel guilty. Instead, Danielle saw it as a last thin ray of hope. Perhaps, since you are ill, it would be best if you stayed home as well. We can have some nice hot tea and fresh scones sent up, and... Aunt Flora stopped her words. As co-chairwoman of the society, I have duties, responsibilities. As long as you are with me, I shall be fine. Dani's shoulders sagged. How did her aunt always manage to get her way? Then again, Aunt Flora had agreed to accompany her on the difficult journey to America. She would be there for Dani's wedding and remain until she was settled with her husband in her new home. Surely she could buck up enough to make it through this last fundraising event before they departed. And, as Aunt Flora had said, the children would be there. There would be at least a few friendly faces to get her through the afternoon affair. A knock at the door drew her attention. An instant later the door swung open and her lady's maid, Caroline Loon, walked in. Caro smiled widely. Lady Wycombe sent for me. Shall I help you pick out something to wear? Dani rolled her eyes, thinking that she hadn't had a chance from the start. Well, then I shall leave you to dress, Aunt Flora said, making her way out the door. You may join me as soon as you are ready. Giving in to her fate, Dani made a resigned nod of her head, and as soon as the door was closed, Caro hurried over to the armoire against the wall. At 26, a year older than Dani, Caroline Loon was taller and more slenderly built, a blonde woman, attractive in a different sort of way, with an incredibly sweet disposition. Caro was a gently reared young lady whose parents had died unexpectedly of a fever. Penniless and orphaned, she had arrived at Wycombe Park nearly 5 years ago, desperate for any sort of employment. Aunt Flora had immediately hired her as Danielle's lady's maid, but over the years the two of them had become far more than mistress and maid. Caroline Loon, a vicar's daughter likely destined for spinsterhood, had become her best friend. Caro opened the door of the armoire. Though most of Dani's clothes were packed away in heavy leather trunks in preparation for her journey, a modest assortment of gowns hung inside. "What about the saffron muslin embroidered with roses?" Caro asked, dragging out one of Dani's